Now, your friend here last night is building a kit plane. That's not going to be a thing.
This is great, but he's, how old is he? He's probably, 50 some odd years old? And he's an aeronautical engineer. He's a damn good guy. And you can bet he is a meticulous fellow, and he'll have a hell of a good airplane. But how many of those do we have out there? Damn few. Look at Van's Aircraft over there in Portland, a hell of a good kit airplane. And these people get in there and the metal work and everything. You look these over, it's beautiful. But they're just not enough. Now he showed what those people really wanted to fly. They built their own airplanes and they've learned to fly. That's the kind of grassroots, like the people back in Oshkosh, that's it. But it's dying. How much can AOPA do? They're dedicated all the way through, but how much can they do?
Now, a lot of the new technology came from some kids in a garage working on a computer.
Absolutely.
And airplanes were started by people working in the garage.
Same type individual, isn't it? And it's all the individual. Same thing. They did it because they were interested in it. It was dynamic. It was somewhere. And the same thing.
Your museum and what you're doing with these inventors and trying to get them to inspire kids, that's sort of what, trying to get them to...
I'm trying to reverse back to my growing up and so on, and the things that stimulated me. But you see, I guess, and another thing, not that I'm not patriotic, but I think America is great. I really do. I think our military is fantastic and so on. I want to preserve it. And the only way we can do it is bring others up after us. And I think that's our goal down here, in a way. And that's the way I feel, and that's the reason it's there. And Pam feels the same way. And all of the people that come in and help us, the docents that come in there and explain, they're all ex-pilots, retired pilots, or the business people. They come in and learn and they teach the kids. They get the kids stimulated. They don't get any pay for that. They do it because they want to do it.
When you talk about the World War II generation, they call that the greatest generation. Tom Brokaw.
I think he's probably right, because first of all, again, I would kind of repeat what I stated earlier. We grew up in the Depression, and what we didn't have, we didn't miss. But we had a discipline. We all help each other, and therefore we get into service. That's the military. You watch each other's back, don't you? We've lost that today. But in World War II, when we were called up, first of all, it was a great opportunity for many of us, but the camaraderie we had in the military were already established, because we had to work together to eat in the Depression and get along, and we did. I don't think we could do that today.
Now, after September 11th, America sort of came together for a short period of time.
Yeah, but it takes a third party, doesn't it? A third party that's a threat. Now, in other words, and it's a hell of a thing to say, but look what 9/11 did for a little while, but then it dissipated. And do we have to have the hell knocked out of us again to pull us back together, only worse to pull us back together, or do we have to every once in a while have that happen? No, that shouldn't be the way it is. But theoretically, from experiences, that's what a lot of people need to get off the bench. In other words, it gets them out there.
Well, December 7th, Pearl Harbor was actually like that.
Boy, did that ever do that. And you see, Roosevelt, again, he may have had a lot of wrongs, but he had some goods too. And you can't convince me they didn't know what the hell was going on in the Pacific, and never will. I mean, everything was too pat all the way through. He knew the potential, they knew the potential. But you see, if he had not used that, would we have pulled together? I don't think so. There had to be some third deal, a dastardly act and so on, another, that pulled us all together, and it did. Boy, World War II really solidified us. Asked people to take and raise little gardens and do the things that they had. Take all these women that had been in the house, they're building ships and airplanes and so on, and they did a fantastic job. I mean, that was the thing. Everybody came together. We had a common thing to do.
It takes some kind of a important moment that caused people to change. Like when gas went to $5 a gallon,
That's right.
And everybody started going green.
You bet. But what is green? I mean, this is a lot of politics as far as I'm concerned. True politics. This weather deal all the way along the line. Maynard Miller's a good friend of mine. He came out of the University of Michigan here. He's a geologist. And he cores the glaciers up in Alaska. And he'll go back years and years and years. And he'll show this warming spell, a cooling spell, all the way to a sinusoidal curve. And he shows that. And I think Gore and so on, not that I particularly liked the guy to begin with, but in other words, he took, and I think it was a political deal more than anything else, he found something that he could pull people in and get arguments going on. Well, maybe he's partially right. Sure, maybe we got a little more CO2 than we had before, but this is a big old world. And maybe we influence weather maybe 5 or 10%. Or certain, maybe the South Pole because we've got stuff that's tying up and producing bad ions and so on. But that isn't massive. That's something we control. I think the general weather patterns are sinusoidal, as Maynard Mill will tell you from coring the glaciers and others. So, in other words, don't go too far and don't play politics with science. I think this is my main P.
Now,
take politics out of science.
Now, Eisenhower said after, when he was after he was president, he said on his way out, he said, watch out for the industrial military complex.
Well, he saw that on both sides. Now, he was kind of unique all the way through, but I thought he was kind of a soft president. He was great, but he didn't go out and do this as he did in the military. Now, the reason he did well in the military, he would reason, and a lot of generals wouldn't reason. So he had the ability to bring people together and keep them cohesive, including Patton. In other words, he could protect them from the press and so on. He needed them, and so on. A guy like Clark, my God, as far as I was concerned, he was a troublemaker in Italy. But the biggest thing is, if you've got people with you, you've got to have their attention, and you can't do it with a hammer. And I think he was that way. Suez and some of these things that happened at that time I wouldn't agree with. And I think he was too soft and soft. He was a general, and a good general, but I don't think you can handle the populace that we handled the military people, because those were his military people, and they had a certain obedience all the way through that you don't have with the masses. And I think that's the problem. I don't think, and I don't care, even if God was in Washington today, you could make everybody do the same thing. You can't do it. And there's too many tangents. And there's people who don't give a damn. They really don't. In other words, they're looking at today, getting all they can get today. But as my daddy told me to begin with, what you do today is going to influence if you're still alive 20 years from now. And we're doing things today that can damn well harm us 20 years from now. And everything takes time. And all of we so-called experiment. There's no experiments in government or anything. Look around the world. Everything's been done before. So what can you do? And you've got to have some discipline. And you've got to have discipline. We're losing it. It's scary for me. In a way, I'm glad I'm 88 years old. Okay?
Now, when you go to those Legends of Aviation's event, and you connect with all these legends of aviation. How does that make you feel when you talk about all these?
I feel good because I'm looking up to a lot of these guys. I mean, I feel they're just so far above me, but they're wonderful people. And we all have the same goals and so on. And a lot, of course, military people. We all kind of think the same. And look at Anders and guys like that. Look what the hell he's done. You look up to these people. I do. I think they're great. I just think they're great. But yet we all worked up together, and we respect them because they've earned. You can't legislate respect. Everyone down there has earned respect. I think that's the Legends of Aviation. That's why I figure they're my peers. I feel good with them.
One thing about when I interview Legends of Aviation, they all have like a little hangar with like an old plane from World War II or the biplane. There's something like being a kid again.
It is. It's not. Certain things you just say, well, those were the good old days. Well, the good old days were the way you remember. You didn't have as many responsibilities, and you perceive that. But that's good. Life is perception, isn't it? So I enjoy getting that old Stearman down there and flying it and getting out. I like my old airplanes. There's something about them that's me. They're fun. AT-6. I really like that AT-6. I can still barrel roll and things we learned in the military with it, and it's kind of fun. It's not that you're going to live in the past, and it's not. You can't sit here and talk about the past all day long because the past leads to the future, and there's only today and tomorrow. The past is gone, but you sure can learn from the past. And it's fun to go back into it and explore it and do things you did. It's like that if you were taking all my airplanes away from my dad's 1938 Cub that's hanging up there. It's got 100 horsepower and originally had 50 in it. And it's probably the only thing is the data plate's the only thing that's probably there from the back. But I love to fly that airplane. I can get up by myself and just fly around, touch and goes, maybe a dozen at a time. And it's pure fun. I really enjoy that. So that's what you bring from the past that really, and yet you fly that Cub well, you can get into about anything and do a good job.
It's just like Howard Hughes saw your plane and says, I'd like to fly it, You guys you see a plane, you go,
right.
Oh, let me try it.
And boy, that guy had the best airplanes in the world. That Sikorsky S-43. He was a good water pilot. And boy, he did everything he wanted, but he did it right. But the things he did, look at how it helped everybody. Public benefit, pro bono, yeah.
He had broken the speed record at one time.
Yes, he did. He did so much. And of course, again, boy, I tell you, he's pushed the limits and damn near killed himself. And that wasn't design failure. You see, the guy that made that prototype of that had the same thing. He went in, the propeller failure. if you look back, why he went in and ended up down there. The same thing happened, I guess, what was it, 5 or 6 years ago? He made over in Oregon, everything was perfect, but he had the same propeller engine combination in his propeller. And going back in history, probably Mr. Hughes went down because of the propeller failure. Same thing.
Well, thanks very much for taking the time.
Well, it's been fun. I've never actually sat down and done anything like this before in my life. You asked a lot of questions.
If you had a chance to sit down and interview somebody, who would you interview like this? You have a mentor or hero that you've always...
Yeah, that they're dead.
They're all gone.
They're gone, really. In other words, right now we know pretty much about each other and the people we like to be with. But at 88 years old, most of your heroes said, yes, gone by. Gosh, it would be great. Great.
When you look at yourself in the mirror, do you see yourself as a doctor or an aviator, or is it just your...
Neither, probably. I'm a conceptual technologist, I guess would best describe me. But I have both disciplines, and I'm able to put them together, and they've taught me lessons. And then, you know, when you get out of school, you're 95% deductive. In other words, this is an education that's put in you. But when you're my age, you're probably 90% inductive. You learn the hard way. And the School of Hard Knocks is a hard lesson. But if you see the probability, and I've never considered myself an inventor, but if you're looking for something new, and I mentioned this earlier, we have an area of probability in here. So the greater our knowledge, deductive knowledge, but sometimes deductive knowledge tells you can't do something, but you'll stay in here, you won't flop around out here. But generally, you'll stay in here and you'll do this once in a while and get back in. So you'll probably be more productive than somebody that doesn't have the deductive background.
It's interesting, some inventors or creative people, they learn a lot of times when they get away from what they're doing. Like the guy that invented the television, he was on a train and he saw a farmer going up and down with his tractor. And he goes,
oh yeah, that's right. But see, that's suggestion, isn't it? In other words, your mind, you want to do something, but you don't know how to do. And it's just like this little home care unit to ventilate the lungs at home. I've wanted to do this for years and years, and I pretty well knew how to do it, but yet I didn't know how to do it. And there was technology that had to catch up with me. In other words, I had to take and have a source of air compression that was lightweight, durable, to make go 10,000 hours. Reliability, I had to have all of these things, and it wasn't out there. But finally we got that technology together, and then I had to come up with the other. In other words, I was used to having lots of air to do this and do that. It's just like big engines on an airplane. Well, you have to do the same thing with less horsepower, and that's what I learned to do. But the biggest thing I've learned to do is one of the circulations, the bronchial circulation, that perfuses the lung, nutritious the lung. And if it goes, you've got emphysema. Well, my obligation is preventing that from going. So if I can maintain the bronchial circulation, they're not going to die of that, they're going to die of something else. And that's what I've been able to do. And I guess that was the last thing I really wanted to do. But it took from 1921, a fellow in Madison, Wisconsin, that started said you could possibly do it, on up to experimentation, then finally the technology, you see. And that's a lot of years. My age, really.
When you look back over your life, what do you think is one of your proudest, or what are some of the proudest moments for you?
I think I felt probably as good as ever when we developed the baby bird. And you see, we had probably a 70% mortality, and in 2 years we had it down probably under 10%, or very much reduced. I think I probably felt as good then. In the early days, the Mark 7, they had all kinds of survival they'd never had before. But it was the only one out there. There was nothing else to compare it to. But that was out there, and it was taking what I did there and extended knowledge, both in aviation and the other. Now, the outflow valve we used actually to take and control the pressure in the lung of the babies, I had made for aviation years earlier, a big one, and I miniaturized, and that's down in the museum, you can see that. So one led to another and another. And I guess at 88 years old, say, oh, I'm fulfilled. Yeah, I really am. In fact, I've gone way beyond the original goals I had, but you keep setting your goals up as you go along. At least that's the way it's worked out with me. And people will come in and they'll suggest things all the way along the line through questions and stuff like that.
So are you rewriting some new goals then?
No, I'm not writing any new goals, but what I am writing up is better teaching methodologies. In other words, how fast this guy is kind of resistant, all you got to push him a little bit. How can you reinforce him? Reinforcement, like the dog, you reinforce any animal through reinforce. Mankind's the same way, really. But you shouldn't have to reinforce mankind with money. And everybody, true, yet you do, because that money allows them to have this and have that, and they earn it. So they want that new car, they want this something in their house or a new home. You give them money for doing something, but that's their goal out here. But they can't be figured that's a job, and they have to do that job to get this. So, in other words, they've got to be earning money, doing what they like, and moving the science ahead. That's the way I look at it.
Money,
if you go to work, it's a sad day.
The inventions and new ideas, money is still part of it. You gotta have money.
Money is the reinforcement. But you see, it becomes their God, doesn't it? How much an hour do I get? How many hours do I have to work? And see, first of all, if you don't like what you do, but the better you like what you do, the more proficient you are and the more money you're going to earn. Okay? And it's pride. You know, if the people lose pride, you see so many people, everything, a job's a means to an end. But damn it, if you have pride, the more pride you have, the better job you do and the more money you make. I think that's the way it's got to go.
It's like a formula.
Yeah, and money is the reinforcement. It's like feeding the dog. Okay? But you don't want to put people, you can take a wolf and make a dog out of a wolf, but you can't make a wolf out of a dog. You can't go back the other way, can you? And that's true with mankind, in my opinion at least.
It seemed like yesterday when I saw kids around you, you're joyous when you see kids around.
I feel great when I see, I think we had, 175 Boy Scouts down there in the museum yesterday. And that to me is great, because they get suggestions going through there. They've got to decide now what they want to be. The sooner we get them to decide generally what they want to be, and then the other language, which is mathematics. To hell with learning to speak French or Zulu or something else. Learn your math all the way through, because that's the language you've got to dwell upon. And as you know, as engineers, you can go out and hell, you might not speak each other's language, but if you know your math, hell, you can go right ahead and talk to each other.
Do you ever go back to that garage that where you worked with your dad in that farm?
Pam and I took and went back there. The house where I was born is still there, and the 200-year-old colonial house is still there. But the barn is gone that we had, and the big garage, fancy garage that we had, that's only half where I had it. And that's, what do they call it, 200-year-old home. There's a sticker or something out there now. So. But I had a wonderful mom and dad. I think it was part of it, especially my daddy. Oh, he was great.
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks a million.
Thank you very much.